Hello everybody and welcome to the Loma versus Lopez post-show podcast here on the Toro Boxing Podcast on the Carlos Toro Media channel. My name is Carlos Toro, your host, your master of ceremonies, your single guy on this podcast. No special guests here. Just wanted to do something very quickly to react to what just happened. Teofimo Lopez beats Vasiliy Lomachenko by unanimous decision in a very interesting fight to become what some are calling him the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. I have no problem calling him that, given that, we have, even though we have Devin Haney with the WBC belt, that's neither here nor there. Teofimo Lopez is the number one guy at the top of the mountain, the lion, the kingpin of the lightweight division. He beats Vasiliy Lomachenko in a very bizarre fight, so to speak. So he wins the fight on the scorecards with one of the most bizarre cards that I've ever seen in my life for a fight as big as this one. So for those of you who have not been able to keep up or did not get a chance to see the fight, Teofimo Lopez wins by decision. The scorecards are as follows. Tim Cheatham scored at 116-112. Steve Weisfeld scored at 117-111. And bafflingly, Julie Letterman had it 119-111 for Teofimo Lopez. Now, I'm just going to say this right now. The right man won. In my opinion, Teofimo Lopez was the better boxer. He was the more active fighter throughout the 12 rounds. Now, there was, second half, most of the second half, that was dominated by Vasiliy Lomachenko, but we'll get into just all of that. But I just wanted to briefly say that 119-109 scorecard is a horrible scorecard. And I have the scorecards right here. Julie Letterman only gave the 11th round to Lomachenko. I'm just bamboozled. I'm stupefied by this scorecard. So let's rewind back and see how we got to this point. So Teofimo Lopez, Vasiliy Lomachenko, it all started with essentially Vasiliy Lomachenko barely throwing a punch in the first few rounds of the fight. It almost seemed like he was getting a feel for Teofimo Lopez. He was moving back. He was avoiding Lopez's best punches and barely threw anything. Just didn't do much at all. And you would think that a guy like Lomachenko would take those first few rounds and get a feel just to see what Lopez's rhythm is, what his power looks like up close. And you would think maybe once we enter the third, the fourth round, then we're going to see Lomachenko really, put the foot in the pedal. Then came the fourth round. And then came the fifth round. Then came the sixth round. And we still didn't get to see Lomachenko fight as the Lomachenko that we're so used to seeing. And I'm just wondering, and there were actually a couple of boxing folk from the media who I was in a Zoom chat with, and we were all just wondering what the hell is going on with Vasiliy Lomachenko. He's not doing anything. He's not throwing anything. Lopez is being the aggressor. He wasn't landing anything that impressive, but he was dominating the scorecard just based on the fact that he was the only one willing to move forward and throw punches. And he was, he was controlling the distance fairly well with his jab. Props to Teofimo Lopez for doing everything that he can to avoid Lomachenko from fighting the way he usually does and cutting off the ring at times in that first half of the fight. Kudos to him. Lomachenko barely threw anything in that first half. He did land a couple of nice left hands that actually kind of bruised Teofimo Lopez's left eye, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough on my scorecards. The first half of the fight, I had it for Teofimo Lopez 5-1, though I'm maybe even in the minority in saying 5-1 Lopez. A lot of people I saw had it 6-0 for Teofimo Lopez, and I have no problem with that at all. Granted, there were a couple of rounds, maybe the second and maybe the sixth, where you could maybe possibly give it to Loma, especially the second, but I just didn't see that much more than a 5-1 for Teofimo Lopez. And then came the 7th round. Lopez wasn't getting tired, but you could see that Lopez still wasn't getting quite through to Loma and breaking through his defenses. So Lomachenko now starts to use his footwork, starts creating those angles that we're so accustomed to seeing. He moves so differently and so quickly at times, and he pressures and he overwhelms you with the speed, the angles, the footwork that he has. Not necessarily a strong puncher, even though his knockout rate is fairly high, but Lomachenko wears you down, almost from the very beginning. And once we get into the championship rounds, fighters physically and mentally just kind of give up. We've seen a couple of fighters, quit from their stool, when they're going up against Lomachenko, but Lopez did a great job at avoiding Lomachenko from executing his game plan early in the first half of the fight. Lomachenko was able to eventually get through, and in my opinion, he was winning rounds, especially from the 8th to the 11th round, and I thought that it was going to be a very, very close fight. Hell, once we get into the 12th round, I had it 104 to 103 my mistake, 105 to 104 for Lopez, and I thought, at this rate, it could very well end up being a draw. Boy, was I fucking wrong. Because by that point, by the time we got into the 7th round, by the time we got into the 8th round, it was essentially over on the scorecards because Julie Letterman and Steve Weisfeld felt that Lopez already won the fight. So the issue here is that Teofimo Lopez deserves the win. He absolutely deserves this incredible, incredible victory. Well deserved. Teofimo Lopez is the best lightweight in the world right now. He deserves to be in the pound for pound top 10 conversation. I don't know where exactly. I'd have to really think about it. Maybe at worst, maybe like in the second half, in the bottom half of that top 10 in pound for pound. I didn't have Vasiliy Lomachenko as my number 1, so I'm not going to put Lopez as the number 1 pound for pound guy if I didn't even think that Lomachenko himself was my number 1. But Lopez does deserve to be in the pound for pound top 10. It really does merit strong consideration to be placed fairly high. But those scorecards, especially that 119-109, and I guess to a lesser extent, that 117-111 card, but it's nowhere near as egregious as 119. That's why I'm not focusing as much on that 117 scorecard from Steve Weisfeld. It's, I felt like, I don't want to harp on it too much, but it does bear repeating. Judges in today's boxing throughout history has never been consistently great. So it sucks, but we shall see. I don't know if there's going to be some reprimand against Julie Letterman. I doubt it. I mean, the right man won, but it does kind of feel like part of the conversation with Teofimo Lopez's victory, which is one of the best performances of the year, in my opinion. Great performance. Hell, you know what? I might even say, hell, Teofimo Lopez could be fighter of the year. I'm more than willing to put my vote in. If the round ended today, Teofimo Lopez, he's up there for fighter of the year. I mean, that's how impressive this win is. Now, I'm curious to see what this will mean for both of these guys moving forward. I mean, Teofimo Lopez is the man, and there is no rematch clause. That's the one vital thing about this about this fight. There is no rematch clause. It's not like Lomachenko can just say, I want the rematch right now and so day, 4 or 5 months from now. There's nothing in that. Maybe a rematch can be explored down the line, but I don't see it. Lopez, now, it's no secret that Lopez has been eyeing a move up in weight class, partially because, well, not partially, it's a big reason, is that he's a big guy, and it's eventually going to be hard for him to make 135 pounds, so it makes all the sense in the world to make the jump to 140 pounds, which is going to be damn something if he moves to 140 pounds while we're still in a division that has Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez in it. Man, those fights would be awesome. Those fights would be incredible. So as far as the immediate future of the 135-pound division, aside from Gervonta Davis, who's going to be fighting Leo Santa Cruz later this month in San Antonio, and aside from Devin Haney, who we don't even know what the hell is up with. Well, he's going to be fighting Yuriorkis Gamboa, but God, it just doesn't seem that good. It doesn't seem that great. Not a great fight. Not a fan of that fight. Devin Haney versus Gamboa. I mean, Teofimo Lopez could fight Devin Haney. He could fight him. Gonna be awkward saying that Teofimo Lopez is the undisputed champion while Devin Haney holds the WBC title. But hey, that's neither here nor there. I mean, Devin Haney holds the belt, but no one believes that, I mean, aside from Devin Haney's own camp, but no one believes that Haney deserves to be recognized as more of a champion than Teofimo Lopez. Lopez is the guy. He is the man, 135 pounds right now. I mean, Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis are the best fights you can make for Teofimo Lopez. I highly doubt we're going to get Gervonta Davis versus Teofimo Lopez, mainly because of the PBC top rank issues that, that are still present, even though, yes, we were able to get Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, and that is a top rank versus PBC fight. It's almost like it's the exception that proves the rule. So now it's Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney, which is a doable fight. It is doable just based on the fact that Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum have been able to get fights done. Hell, they just announced today Terrence Crawford versus Kell Brook. That's a top rank versus Matchroom fight. So it is possible, but the problem here is that Devin Haney may have to deal with a mandatory after he's done with Yuriorkis Gamboa. So hell, maybe Lopez decides to abandon 135 and go straight to 140 pounds. Maybe. So I'm just curious. I'm just wondering what is now next for Lomachenko. Because this is not a hot take, and I've been saying this for a while. Lomachenko is a small guy at 135 pounds. This was the highest weight class for Lomachenko right now. And I think it's now the perfect time for him to make that move back down to 130 pounds, where there are still some phenomenal fights to make at that weight class. Jamel Herring, he's got the WBO belt. Miguel Burchelt has the WBC belt. Who knows what the hell is going to happen with that WBA belt, because Leo Santa Cruz has one of the WBA titles, and Gervonta Davis is going to be fighting Leo Santa Cruz with that WBA 130-pound title. But then there's also Rene Alvarado, who holds the other WBA title at 130 pounds. It's a fucking mess with the WBA, as always with their title situation. Regardless, if it has to come to one fighter from the WBA holding a title, it's Rene Alvarado, and he's a Golden Boy guy, and you know what? Why not? I mean, Rene Alvarado's not doing anything. Hell, 80% of the Golden Boy roster isn't doing anything right now, so you might as well put Alvarado in a fight against Lomachenko. You can make a lot of fights at 130 pounds for Lomachenko, and it wouldn't be a stretch saying that saying those fights are doable. Hell, Shakur Stevenson is now officially a part of the 130-pound division. He's going to be likely getting a title shot, within the next 8 months or so. He'll likely be facing whoever wins between Carl Frampton and Jamel Herring, which is penned for, a couple of months from now. So, for Lomachenko, I think this is it for him at lightweight. I don't see him, unless Lomachenko can somehow secure a rematch. And I think people will still tune into that fight. That's a big, that is still a huge fight, but Lomachenko, he's gonna have to do better with these slow starts. Like, I don't know if the plan was to take those first few rounds off. Maybe you rely on that experience once we get into the middle rounds, and then Lomachenko takes over. He took over in rounds 7 through 11. He absolutely took over. My issue is that it was too little too late. It really was. By the time we got into the final round, it was close, at least on my scorecard, but I thought Lopez's aggression and his ability to notice that this is still anybody's fight. I mean, theoretically, anybody's fight without even knowing what the scorecards are looking like. And he knew that he had to finish the fight strong. And Teofimo Lopez did. He did a damn good job at putting a lot of pressure and landing a couple of good combinations on Lopez in that final round. Because I think more than anything, that was the icing on the cake on a phenomenal performance by Teofimo Lopez, who deserves Fighter of the Year considerations in my book. Because you don't beat a future Hall of Famer. You don't beat a guy a lot of people consider as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world today and not get consideration for Fighter of the Year. Lopez, in my opinion, is the top 10 pound-for-pound guy. He is the number one guy, consensus, top lightweight in the world. So I think Lopez is going to maybe have a couple of fights at lightweight before moving to 130 pounds. I think part of it has to do with what is out there at 140 pounds. Is he interested in guys like Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez after they have their, what we presume to be eventual lightweight title unification? For Lomachenko, I think it's smart for him to go back to 130 pounds. There's a lot of good fights out there that can be made, the top rank can negotiate successfully, and they'd be title fights for Lomachenko, and I don't think people would complain that much. I mean, we'd all tune in to watch Lomachenko versus Shakur Stevenson. We'd all tune in to have him fight against Miguel Berchelt. We wouldn't mind seeing Lomachenko versus Rene Alvarado. Alvarado's not a bad fighter, not in the slightest bit. There's Joseph Diaz. Jojo Diaz is also there. He's the IBF champion. Wouldn't be a bad fight if Lomachenko fights Joseph Diaz too. I just gave you 4 or 5 fights for Lomachenko 130 pounds, which is still a weight that he can easily make. Lomachenko is an undersized lightweight, and we knew that from the very beginning since he moved up from super featherweight a couple of years ago. The thing was, he's so great at boxing and he's so fantastic that it negated the fact that he was undersized at lightweight. But then it's almost the Mikey Garcia type of situation where at some point you're going to be fighting a bigger guy, a more physically imposing guy, a stronger fighter in that weight class, and the boxing skills alone just won't cut it. And that's what we saw here. Lomachenko was not able to properly execute the game plan that he had in the second half and wasn't able to do it in the middle rounds and, from the 4th round onwards. He started way too late. Now, it could be a combination of ring rust, age, accumulation of fights, all the amateur bouts, that he's had, even though his pro career, not a ton of fights, but his amateur career is, around close to 400 amateur fights. That will eventually come back and get you. I didn't think it was going to be that in this fight where those accumulation of fights, catches up to him. Not to mention, Lomachenko had surgery to repair a torn labrum a couple of years ago. And I don't care what anyone says, For a guy like Lomachenko with that much wear and tear on his body from the amateur bouts, don't you think that, that surgery might have played a role in maybe his body wearing down just a little bit? He's in his 30s. He's been in a couple of tough fights. I don't know if this is it for Lomachenko. I don't think so. I think Lomachenko is still one of the best fighters in the world today. But he just ran into a guy who, in my opinion, just wanted it more. Or at least he fought like he wanted it more. Lopez, kudos to you. I picked Lomachenko to win this fight by decision. And at the end of it all, Lopez deserved the win. That 119-109 scorecard was absolute bullshit. So, there's not much to say from here. It's an interesting fight to look at. This was not the, all-time great fight that many of us were expecting. But this was a fight where we can all come to a conclusion, or most of us, because I know a couple of people that actually had Lomachenko winning. But I think this is a fight where most of us can come to an agreement that Teofimo Lopez was the rightful winner. He deserved that victory. And he deserves to be called the best lightweight in the world. He deserves to be in consideration for Fight of the Year. He deserves to be in consideration for a solid placement on the pound-for-pound rankings. It'll be interesting to see where things go from here. And before I wrap up this little post-show podcast, just wanted to quickly run down the rest of the card. So we got Arnold Barbosa Jr. beating Alex Alcedo by unanimous decision, 96-93, 97-92, and 97-92. Good fight. This was a very good test for Arnold Barbosa. This was a learning lesson. This was a fight where Barbosa learned a lot. Alex Alcedo brought a lot of heat, a lot of pressure to Barbosa from the early going. Barbosa had to come in and trade a lot of shots with Alex Alcedo, who I think we can abandon the narrative that we're going to be seeing more defensive-minded version of Alex Alcedo. Because now it's been a couple of fights since the loss to Maurice Hooker. And even though there's been flashes of Alex Alcedo taking his defense seriously, it's been largely the same version of Alex Alcedo that we've grown accustomed to seeing. And in some regards, love him, because when Alex Alcedo decides to, play offense and play ball with fighters, the fights turn out to be really good. And this was a damn good fight. This was an interesting fight. Barbosa beating Alex Alcedo doesn't necessarily mean that he's ready for the top guys at 140 pounds, but it's a good step. Barbosa is still a prospect / fringe contender at this point, but I think he's still developing. I think he's still growing in a very, very deep division at 140 pounds. Who's to say if Jose Zepeda doesn't get a title shot soon? Why not Jose Zepeda versus Arnold Barbosa? That'd be a very, very good fight. And I think whoever wins that fight, I think that person will absolutely deserve to get a title shot one way or another. So, and then the opening bout on the main card on ESPN, Edgar Berlanga Jr. continues the first round knockout streak by taking out Lanel Bellows in, let's see, how many seconds did it took? 79 seconds. So the knockout streak is still alive. He is still at 15. He's now at 15 straight first round knockouts. That's damn impressive. Edgar Berlanga, he's got the goods. Now, I'm not ready to say, oh, he's going to be a future world champion. He's going to be a guy who's going to dominate the sport for years and years to come. I need to see more from Berlanga in fights. And by that I mean, fight the second round, damn it. Because you're not telling me anything by knocking dudes out in the first round every single time out. Now, I do have to say, this Lanel Bell is a guy who had never been stopped before. He's lost 6 times, but not one of those fights were a stoppage loss. So that does say something, but I'm gonna need to see more. I think there's a lot of good things about Edgar Berlanga. He's Puerto Rican, so he's gonna get a lot of support and promotion from Top Rank. He's electrifying. He's a damn good fighter. He provides highlight reel knockouts left and right. He is, as a friend was telling me, he is in the perfect Instagram fighter where you can just watch his fights on Instagram because they're that quickly. So, he's got the goods, but I need to see more. I need to see a second round. I need to see how Berlanga fares against a guy who can take Berlanga's power. But that might not be for a while because we haven't seen a fighter stand up to Edgar Berlanga and handle that unbelievable power that he possesses. So I like Edgar Berlanga. I still need to see more from him. And then we move on. Quick results from the undercard. Josue Vargas beats Kendo Castaneda by unanimous decision 98-91, 100-89, and 99-90. Fairly one-sided. Vargas, sharp prospects, and Kendo Castaneda, up until this year, was another solid prospect, but he's now lost 3 straight. He's lost every fight in 2018, in 2020, I should say. So, Jose Vargas on the up and up. I need to see. I think he is still someone I would keep an eye on. I would not say that Jose Vargas is a surefire top contender, but he's on his way. He's a damn good fighter. Jose Enrique Vivas stops John Vincent Moralde in 76 seconds in the first round. Not much to say here. Vivas looking good. He's been looking really impressively since the loss to Ruben Villa in the last year, and he's got 3 straight wins right now. That's a fighter to kind of keep an eye on at featherweight. Again, not entirely sure if he's going to be a true top contender. My guess is no, but he'll be in some good fights. He'll be getting some good TV fights for a good while. He's certainly earned it by getting a good win over John Vincent Moralde in the first round on ESPN. Quentin Randall hands Giancarlo Rivera his first pro loss. Now, this was a fight that ended by unanimous decision 59-55, 58-56, and 58-56. Good fight. Quentin Randall, very poised. I like what I saw from him. He was a fighter who looked composed. He looked ready, very mature as far as fighting inside the ring. Giancarlo Rivera, back to the drawing board, but didn't look that great either. I mean, he was coming into this fight having won all 4 of his fights, discounting the no decision that he had the fight prior, but all 4 of his fights that had a result ended it in the first or in the second round, but Quentin Randall was just a better fighter that day. And then lastly, Jai Tucker beats Charles Garner 40-36 across the board. Jai Tucker now moves to 2-0, and I like what I saw right there from Tucker, but he's a guy who's actually gotten some good sparring. And, he's from Deer Park, New York. I think he's gotten some sparring from Shakur Stevenson. If that's true, that's a pretty damn good sparring partner right there. So, Jai Tucker, like what I saw right there. So, be a nice, he'll be getting some good ESPN Plus undercard fights for a little while as we sort of see his development. So that about wraps it up for this post-show podcast of Teofimo Lopez versus Vasiliy Lomachenko. Teofimo Lopez, the new undisputed, but definitely is the number 1 guy at lightweight, beats Vasiliy Lomachenko by unanimous decision. He now has all the belts. He is now the man at 135 pounds. You can follow me on Twitter at Carlos Toro 360. You can follow me on YouTube at Carlos Toro Media. Subscribe. We got interviews. We got podcasts with guys from all over the boxing world. Spoke to Bob Arum not too long ago. We got Xavier Martinez of Mayweather Promotions. He's going to be fighting on Showtime next weekend against Claudio Marrero. Very, very good fight at 130 pounds. Interesting fight to keep an eye on as we sort of look at Xavier Martinez's progression and development as a fighter. Claudio Marrero's no easy out. He is a guy who's been in the ring for a couple of very, very good fighters and is still a hard fight to win. So that'll be interesting to watch on Showtime. But until then, I'm Carlos Toro, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.